Hello, welcome back. A few apologies before we get started. Apologies for the audio and of course the video. I'll be looking at my center screen sometimes, but my camera's on my left. I am at work, which explains the beardless barn dog. So I work in mining. I've said this was my life before crypto. And I work in lead, zinc, and some sites that require me to shave, hence wearing face masks, and there we are. But I want to be talking about my two marathons I did in March and April. March 19th, I did Rome, and then 2 weeks later, I did Paris. Now, these were my third and fourth marathons, and I had an absolute baller. Did I get the times I wanted?
No.
Probably not. It's interesting. I kind of took 2022 for granted, I believe. And a really big thing I'll talk about heavily is I don't think I'm as fit as I was for the long distance as I was in October, November last year. The main core parts to that being last year, before I left September, October, I was running 3 times a week, 20 to 25 kilometers every single time. Even those still aren't as long as what you want to be running for a long run for a marathon. You want to be getting into the 30s and 32s. And these are all things that, hello, a coach can teach you. So post Paris, post Rome, I've been doing a lot of heavy thinking, taking a lot of time off as I rest and, cross taper, now back up. Last week I ran 60 Ks. This week was only 40. My ankles were feeling a little bit loose. So only 40 Ks a week. Before that was 50 Ks. So I'm gearing up and I want to be running 60 to 80 Ks a week on average and doing a lot of running training involving things like interval training, splits, negative splits, getting my times done. There's a lot of extra things I'll be doing. I'm doing a lot more research now as well. But let's have a quick look at some split times, and I can give you a rough look at what I did here in Rome, 3 hours, 49 minutes. Now, the first half was an hour 32, but I finished 2 hours and 27 minutes for the second half. Now, I went out absolutely like a bat out of hell at the start. My first 5K splits was 19 minutes and 13 seconds. Much too fast.
Woo! Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna...
There was a bit of an issue there because I tried to sneak one off in the toilet at the start line before the run. Didn't realise the race was starting, and it was I thought it was half an hour after, so I thought I had time to get a sneaky one off. And planes went over the top. They had the flag colours. They put the paint out. It was such an amazing start. I just took off like a bat out of hell, and it definitely wasn't great. Much too quick. So now you see the times I got slower. What I really should have been running is between 420s to 430s. That should have been my start. I should have been aiming for a 3 hour 20 marathon in Rome, knowing that I had a lack of times. But I still don't get the emotional charge. I don't get that fixed up. I'm still, you get pumped. You're in these things. This was only my third marathon. You're seeing planes flying over the top and doing this cool shit. Or everyone's charged. It's such a great atmosphere to be in. Everyone's got a smile on their face. They're all keen to be there. They want to be there. And it's such a different, such a juxtaposed in position to what you see at the end of a race where people are struggling to get to the end. I'll show a heap of photos and I'll talk about some of them as we go through. They're not going to be in exact order. So you can see here, I've got my ankle braces down. Not ankle braces, knee braces. I wear compression knee braces for the majority of last year training. Now, I don't know whether I've got patella problems or what, but I've been doing a lot of knee exercises and stretching. Haven't been to the doctor, still haven't been to the doctor. I should, but I've been doing a lot of extra stretching. And with using one knee brace, I did use one knee brace last year in my Athens marathon. And I found through using just the right that my left has counterbalance and it hasn't been great. So for these, Rome, I was very worried about the cobblestones. And you can see there, early on in the race, I had both my knee braces up. I was worried about the cobblestones, probably too over worried about it. I think it was 16 kilometres of cobblestones, but a lot of them were just flat. These are fine to run on. There was no problem running on these. there was probably 1 or 2 kilometers where you'll see me looking down and looking at my feet to make sure I'm putting them in a good spot. So it was a little bit more of a, what would you call it? A little bit more of a technical course, not like a trail course or anything like that, but there was definitely places you could do angles. So for that, I was a little bit worried about it. Now, the bum bag. I'll talk about the bum bag. Solana bum bag. Vibu from Solana Spaces actually sent this to me for free. Thank you, Vibu. Big thumbs up. I ran with this twice in Australia before I went to Europe, and it ran fine. But what I found in Europe, as I was running in the marathon, you can see me playing around with it, trying to tighten the straps up. It kept slapping me in the balls, and it wasn't great. I ended up counterbalancing onto my left-hand side, and I did not have a good experience with that at all. The Nike running pack that I used for the last 2 marathons was absolutely immaculate. Much cleaner because it sits on your waist. There's no slapping around or anything like that. This thing was just unfortunate. I did test it. So one of the big things, never test new equipment on a marathon. You're running a 42.2 distance. You need to make sure you've tried and tested. You don't run new shoes. You don't run new shirts. You don't run new shorts usually. I actually chafed in shorts as well, which was funny. So I am changing my running shorts. Looking down at my phone, I did a lot of video footage this one because I knew I was going to run slow. And from about, especially from half onwards, I started doing more video because I knew I was struggling. So I wanted to record the experience and have some fun. Tash, I love her to death. She helps me out with those, and she was uploading it live to my to my Instagram whilst I'm there. So I'll take the video, send it to her on Discord, and then she'd put it up for me. One interesting fact I've learned about recently was holding a water bottle in your hand actually adds, on average, 2 to your heart rate. So it's not something you want to be doing all race. You want to either mix them up as well because it's moving it around. But you do get water bottles in a lot of these marathons, normally around every 5Ks. Some of them doing that every 2.5. So you want to have a quick drink and then obviously discard the bottle. Try and discard it in the bin if you can. It's one of those things you take a challenge and you try and throw it in the bin every time. But there's people that are there cleaning them up. It's such a mess seeing the marathon. There's goo strips everywhere. There's cloths for wiping your face. There's water bottles everywhere. It's nice to try and do a bit of recycling. But this was pretty cool. Old mate, 3446 looked like he was struggling. Old Bruno. And I had a bit of a smile on my face. I was loving life at the start of this run. This was in the first half. I mean, it's Rome. I hadn't been to Rome for over 16 years. I was taking screenshots. This is a good photo here with Gianluca. I really had a great time. I almost ran into a cameraman because I was too busy filming and recording. Having fun here, talking to the phone, more footage. Need to get rid of these bloody phones. So, you can see later in the stage, running through, I was going much slower. My last 2 kilometers were 8-minute kilometers. They were very, very slow. Looking at the cameraman there. The crowd was electric. Rome, everywhere I've been to so far, the crowds have been absolutely pumped for the big city ones. And you can see I'm looking at the cobblestones here, got my head down, making sure I'm careful with where I put my feet. You should try to look straight forward when you're running in a marathon. Luca was the first person to pick me up on this, and looking forward when you're running uses less muscles. It's more energy efficient. You also pick up a lot of things. You pick up peripheral vision. You see runners on your sides. You don't get counterbalanced too hard. Like if someone bumps you, you can hold your balance a lot better. If you're looking at the ground, you can have a lot of problems. So where are we? Hating life there, hating life. Just cruising along. Now, there was one really good picture. Where was it? I landed really funny, and I've put this out here. You can see my knee. I've landed. My muscles are tensed up on my right. Something didn't feel good, and I was not enjoying my time at all. This is the end of the race here. I met an Englishman that had some dramas, 47 years old. He was happy. He ran same pace as me. Overall, at the end, he was happy. I think this was his 6th marathon. It's really cool, the interpersonal things that happen whilst you're at these runs. Like everyone's just gone to war with their own body. 42.2 Ks is no small feat. No matter what speed you do it at, you don't have to run them at 3 hours. You don't have to run them at 4 hours. You run them at a pace you want to do. It's just a shame I didn't get to have a beer with him afterwards. But yeah, good fella. Took some photos, all that kind of stuff. So 3:49. To put that in perspective, that's 50 minutes slower than my Athens marathon, my second marathon. My first marathon was 3 hours and 6 minutes. First marathon, no carbs. I ran 43 minutes quicker than this one. So it's really interesting to see how the mind affects it. I was fit. I definitely wasn't long run fit. But yeah, I went out much too fast at the start. Really, 4:24 for the half marathon. That's what I should have been running from the very, very beginning. So getting into some of that. Now, let's have a look at Paris. Paris was, I want to talk about this as well. I had some really great experiences in Paris. Two of the men that were responsible for a lot of it, Kevin on the left from DFIT, the CEO, and Jerome, ex-Steppen ambassador. Jerome is an absolute legend. And we were in Pau here. I stayed in one of his apartments. We did a AMA with Kevin for DFIT at Jerome's apartment. We had dinner many times. We did a lot of running together. I've got extra footage for that. Just top blokes. They absolutely made it so fantastic. I got to meet Kevin's partner for the second time. We went down to the southwest of France and saw some of the surfing areas and things like that. It was a really personal feeling to it all. I met Kevin's father, his grandmothers. I met his nephew, his sister. This was really cool, his brother-in-law, and we had many special things. Also, we did a Saturday event before the marathon, and there were more people turned up afterwards as well. This was the first couple of photos. We had a few pints. We had some cheese boards, some platters. They love their cheese platters. They've got special words for it. I couldn't pronounce it, but we did a few cheese platters. We handed out some merchandise, some hats, some beanies, some shirts were given out. It was cool to see different Move and Earn brands turning up. So there were Steppen people, there was DFIT people. No one really represented Geno Pets. I played Geno Pets. Obviously, Crit plays Geno Pets. Most people play 2 games at once, if not 3 or 4. This is Move and Earn. People are going to try to maximise their time. And it was cool to sit down and have a chat. The gentleman next to me was an Ironman, 52 or 55. Also keto, we had a bit of a discussion about that and carbs and running. It was a really cool thing to do on the Saturday. Now, unfortunately, I've got the taste for beer. Anyone that's met Barn Dog knows I love a beer, and I had probably 10 plus pints on the Saturday before the Paris Marathon. So definitely not an ideal thing. I don't recommend having 10 pints. I was probably asleep by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The boys put me in an Uber, got me back to the apartment. I managed to get some sleep, some rest, woke up at midnight, got some water into me, got some carbs, got some food, some, mushrooms and stuff like that. Get the good electrolytes into the body. So I really messed up having them, but I'm me. I'm a down-to-earth person. I love a good local time. I love a good laugh, meeting friends, meeting anyone out, and really making it a part of it. So what I was proud of was I ran 3:21 the next day. So I know I can have 10 pints and go to a marathon, but it's not an ideal setup, and I won't be doing it next time. So looking at my times for Paris, I did my first set of splits at 4 minutes and 6 seconds better, but I should have been at the 4:10 to 4:20. I did say I wanted 4:10 to 4:20, and I still went out quick, but slower than slower than Rome. What was really good about this, though, was because I had Rome 2 weeks before, Rome acted as a good long run for Paris, and that really, really helped. The overall marathon, 28 minutes faster than Rome, but 22 minutes slower than Athens, my personal record. Now, Paris is a fairly flat course. There's a little bit of going through tunnels and the bridges around the 30k marker. Fantastic course. It was cold. It was around 10 degrees the whole day, maybe 11. I ended up having to put my armbands back onto my hands to keep myself warm. There was after about 25Ks, they were struggling. They were really, really cold. But I did slow down a fair bit after the 25k marker. And you can see 4:47 a minute per kilometre. So 4:47 minutes per kilometre compared to 4:11 for a 3-hour marathon. it's a long way off the mark of my personal record, but I was really proud of both Rome and Paris. They were great. I had fun. I enjoyed them. It was good to see it post 2022, to see where I am in the head, all of those kinds of things. So I've talked a bit about the long runs. Definitely food and diet was one of them as well. I came home 79 to 80 kilos. That's about 7 to 8 kilos heavier than I went to Europe. So I definitely noticed it in the photos and the videos. I was probably 4 to 5 kilos heavier in my Paris run than I was in my Athens run. That makes a difference. So since I've come home, I've knocked that out. I'm happy with my diet where I am. I'm back to 76, and I'll work on dropping 4 kilos pre-next marathon. I've got 10 weeks before my next marathon. So also worth mentioning my half marathon, 1 hour, 27 minutes, whereas I ran 1:24 in Athens. So those speeds are very close. And it's interesting. My half marathon speeds are still there because I still do a lot of running, even before these marathons, and I still do them around that 4-minute pace for my practice runs. But I'm trying to pace myself 4 minutes and 5 seconds to 4 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm trying to get better on that, and I need to control that at the start line. I did do it in Paris. I thought I was going at a good speed, but maybe it was, again, too quick, and that's affected me, and that's why I've got cramps at the end of the marathon. Maybe the 10 pints didn't help, but the times there, much more proud. Now, a special mention as well to Kevin and Hadrian from DFIT. These guys really put it on for me. And Hadrian met me at the 30, Kevin met me at the 10, at the half marathon, then at the 40. The guys both took extra video of me. It was such an amazing, you just feel the love, and the guys really put it on. One of the special ones here, where is it? Here we go.
You got this. Pushing through the pain.
You hear Kev there in the end. You got this. It was, fuck. I cannot words. I don't have enough words for the love that you feel during these events. And Hadrian did extra stuff, and Kevin, and they've got the fact that they're handing me the camera to be able to take it and remember this. Is just an absolute amazing feeling. Now, I wanted to show one of the 40-kilometer pack runs because it was where is it? 40-kilometer pack footage. Oh mate, he beat me. He wore a full suit. I think he was drinking a beer at the 40k marker. He was in the 3-hour pack. So I was right with the 3-hour paces up to the 30k marker. And it's funny, that 30k marker, a lot of the common things are at 30k's, you're halfway through the run. So you don't start off super quick, so you've got legs for the end. And of course, I keep starting off quick. Even in Athens, my 2-hour 59 marathon, I did a 1:24 first half, but that was exactly as I'd planned. I knew my strengths. I knew I was a fast halfer. And I also knew that there was hills in the second half of Athens, 240 meters of elevation. And I wanted to run a quick first half and then just push through the hills at a slower pace. And I did that. So that achieved my 3 hours. And it was really, really cool to see that. But definitely no denying the early pacing, and I can't make up for that. So I'm looking at my thing here. In 2022, I did around 80 kilometers a week of running. I was walking for 100 kilometers on top of that, obviously with my game and all that kind of stuff. Whereas before these two, I was doing maybe 45 to 60 Ks of running and 10 Ks of walking. Definitely stopped doing the 3 hours a day. Don't have the time. I'm working full time. Nobody's got 3 hours a day on top of a 12-hour gig. When you're working 12-hour days, you don't have 3 hours a day. So you've got to really balance your times and things like that. I did also have a lot of extra stress in Paris. I was served to go to court, the Federal Court of Australia. This is pretty big stuff, and it put a lot of stress on me whilst I was there. So the added stress Didn't help. It certainly didn't help. I'm still ongoing with these dramas, and it's definitely something that I've got to work through. So I talked about the knee braces, food and weight. So I carved up about a week before Rome. I started the carbs. Now, one of the things that I'll talk about, Goo. Goo is just another brand of the energy packs, and they give you around 30 grams of carbs. You can have on average 60 grams an hour, 60 to 90 grams. And now, I've been keto for 4 or 5 years. I love it. I love the diet. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not recommending it for anybody else. You know, you've got to do the research. You've got to see what works for you. I love the diet. It's something I've done for a long time. I like it with my work, 12-hour shifts, doing night shifts. I sleep well. I obviously lost a lot of weight on it, but I enjoy the lifestyle. So I am going to go back to my keto, which I've done, and I train with the Goo packs. So when I'm doing a long run train, I'll have 1 or 2 of those depending on the paces I'm doing. So keto, basically, you're using your fat instead of carbs, but it's very oxygen inefficient. And this is something that I had a very smart man tell me this before I went. He said, it won't work. And I'm like, well, I want to see what it does. So obviously, when you're trying to run at a much faster pace, the body just can't keep up with it and supply you with glucose. Your muscles need glucose. Your brain needs glucose. So you have gel packs, and fast runners, I might use 90 grams an hour. So it depends on yourself. You shouldn't be using these things in a marathon. Don't go into a marathon using them first time. I used one a day before a marathon, and then I used them in both Athens, and then I used them in obviously my next two in Rome and Paris. And you should be drinking water with them as well, because it helps water them down and then pass it through the body quicker. There's a lot of hints and tips to it, and you want to see if you can get them with magnesium, if you can get them with sodium, if you can get some with caffeine for the second half of the marathon. There's a lot to it. So this is one of the reasons why I've tried to carve myself in, and I'm very stressed about it, and I still don't know it. And I had maybe too much beer in Paris and too many carbs. I was much heavier in weight. I'm not going to do that for my next marathon. I'm very happy with what I'm dieting, how I'm eating. I think the term might be atrophy, where the body eats muscle instead of carbs if you don't have enough carbs. So I'm obviously very aware of a whole lot of factors. Again, I'm not a dietitian. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research. There are ultra runners out there that are keto professionals, and there are people that continue to do it. So it's one that I'm finding a balance in myself. I'm doing it for me. I'm not going to be a 2-hour 20 marathoner. I'd love to get in the 250s. Maybe 249s, who knows? I'd love to get quicker. I know that I need to use them to be able to do it, because my first marathon in Lubeck, I went in with no carbs, and at about 25 Ks, my hammies just packed it in. They cramped up. That's one of the signs of not having enough glucose, and I struggled like fuck to get to the end of the marathon. So I knew Athens, I had to absolutely make a change. So that was a very, very big one. Also, at the meetup, we had a lot of good friends. That was awesome. Now, the bump pack I've talked about. And one of the big ones as well, I got really stuck into my park runs and my 5-kilometer speeds at the end of 2022. I ran 18 minutes and 1 second. I was pumping it, and that was in 26 degrees and 96% humidity in Cairns. I still want to do 5K runs, but I am training for Cairns in July. I've got 10 weeks now. I'm absolutely concentrating on getting the amount of long runs I need in me, and also pacing myself, learning my pace. I'm going to be trying to pace myself at 4 minutes and 5 to 4 minutes and 10 seconds per kilometer. When I go into my next marathon in Cairns, I won't be wearing a bum pack. I'm just going to use my watch, and I'm going to use these beautiful things. I got these at the Paris Expo. There are shocks. And you can see them in this picture on there. They are amazing. I say you shouldn't use new gear in a marathon, but I used them in Paris. They were absolutely comfy as. Now I can sync that to my watch. I can then have my music on, and I won't have the added problem of the bum pack. Obviously, I need to carry my goo and my gel, and I'll work that out. One big thing to talk about is trainers. Now, getting a marathon coach or getting a running coach, maybe you do it from your local club. Maybe you do it on the internet. I will likely try and do it after Cairns. I kind of want to do one more, just doing my thing. But I know I need to get a coach before I go to Boston in 2024. It's a very, very big one. And I'm probably going to approach Bryn and see whether they've got room at Runners One. I love Brendan. I've had a great experience with him. I trust him. He's got some great advice. He's a marathoner. He's done plenty. He knows his shit. And it's good. You want to get people that they're not going to baby you. Do you want to get better? Do you want to do it? They'll be able to analyze everything, and they're experienced and they're trained to do that. I'm not a professional. I'm not a trainer or anything like that. Obviously, I've learned a bit now, but I've only done 4 marathons. I'm still learning. I can't keep my emotions under control at the start of a marathon. I get pumped and excited. But I want to close with one more special mention for D-Fit. Now, they're just going through the mint. It's the last day of the mint. Now I minted my baby fits. I've got a team, the doghouse. We've got 20 people in there now. If you're running and you want to get into a team, I think it is a great addition to your move and earn cycle. Maybe use another game, maybe use another couple of games. But I do love that it's got a free to play. You don't have to play. You can just quite happily get into it. It's on Ethereum and Polygon. The tokens are on Polygon. The NFTs are on Ethereum. Don't ask. There's no point talking about it. But the gamification's coming out with baby fits maybe Q2 this year. We're seeing the mintings for those. I've got heaps. I minted 11. And I like it because it's pushing. It's helped me check my numbers. I've got a team. It gives them tokens. I get extra tokens when they do runs. It's more about the teammanship. It's more about being a part. I've got a couple of Aussies. I'll try to go down to Melbourne and do a run with one of them. I'll try to get across to Perth and do a run with another one. It's the social aspect of it, and I love it. So definitely a big one. I'm sticking with my gaming. I love it. Solana gaming, obviously, but I'm going to keep trying to do videos like this as I progress my own running and have a bit of fun. But yeah, I mean, they were great marathons. I want to finish with one video, and that's the war dance. I do show this, the marathoner war dance.
Show me your awesome walking style.
It's nice and slow.
Show me your awesome walking style.
I'm so happy Kevin took this. And I can see I've got more weight on me. I have got a couple of shirts on and a jacket and stuff like that. But this is the thing, and I'm not worried whether I'm fat or any of that kind of shit. It's that 4 or 5 kilos. That's like maybe 6 to 7 in Paris. That's 10% of your body weight. That's a massive, massive difference. A lot of runners try to get as light as possible for their road running and their racing. I wasn't trying to set ultimate. I knew I wasn't going to get personal best, so personal record or anything like that. The funny thing is, though, is that Paris is the easiest course I've run so far out of all 4 courses, and it was my 3rd in time. So my very first marathon, I ran quicker. So it's super interesting to see how the mental can affect it, how your long runs can affect it. There's so much to running. I absolutely had a great time. I love the fact that I met Kevin and his family. I love Hadrian and the extra work he did. Kevin, watching him call out some basketball, he calls out for men's 3, women's 1s. He has a great time. But I've got extra footage. I'm going to try and whip up a longer video. I know everyone doesn't want to watch hour-long videos and things like that, but I've got so much footage there, which was some awesome things. Yeah, hope you had a bit of a laugh. Thank you, Mother, for the rabbits.